Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. I am Abe with MysticGenmara.com, a small town mystic from the middle of Idaho. And tonight, or today, whenever you see this, I will be offering the elemental reading for the energy of fire for June of 2023. And there are 5 weeks in June, well, 4.5, we'll go with 5. So we'll be doing 5 separate weeks. I read week to week. I look for a guide or guardian, a message from source, and then a lesson or a challenge from the tarot for you. And these readings are timeless, so even if you're not seeing it in June of 2023, when you do watch it, you'll be getting the message from Spirit that you're supposed to receive for that time. If you enjoy these types of readings, you can subscribe, drop a like, drop a comment, let me know what you think. Any of the cards that I'm using are listed in the description below. I read intuitively, so what comes through may or may not be what's the exact meaning of the card. And for the elemental energy of fire, it covers the zodiac signs of Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius. I am not real comfortable with the zodiac, just a lack of understanding is all. So I'm working on improving that. But I am more comfortable with the elements, so that's why I work with those instead. And with that, we'll get started with week 1 for Fire 2023. And your guide or guardian, and it depends on how it shows up for you. If it's a guide, it's going to help you along that week. If it's a guardian, it's going to protect you from something that week. It is the Silver Lunar Dragon, bathes you in divine feminine light. Come into balance and practice peace, harmony, and cooperation. Expand your causal chakra. So right off the bat, this month is saying tap into your divine feminine aspect. Look to your feminine ancestors. The causal chakra sits just behind and just above where your crown chakra sits. So you're looking to your ancestors because this chakra taps into your ancestral line. They're saying your spiritual ancestors as well as your physical ancestors. So maybe there was someone in your past that had a really strong influence for you that was more feminine in nature, and the Silver Lunar Dragon is going to help you understand what that person's purpose was in your life and how to work with it. If you are comfortable with working with dragon energy, just call upon the Silver Lunar Dragon, and she'll show up probably in your dreams. She works more intuitively, subconsciously, so which is where the realm of the moon is. So it's something to think about there, is just to see what your dreams are coming forward this first week. Your lesson or your message from source is Hathor light codes, light immersion, full system upgrades, and power recall. So we're still going with the feminine energy. So this first week is really going to be dominated by the more feminine, the more gentle, the more gentle, not weak, the more intuitive aspect of life. So when you're working with light immersion and light system upgrades, they're saying, yes, working with the light of the moon, working with that lunar energy from the Silver Lunar Dragon is important, but don't forget to go out in the sun. Go out in the moonlight and the sunlight and just be. Don't think about anything, don't worry about anything. Put your phone down, put your book down, go outside and just feel the light of the sun, feel the light of the moon, and allow whatever comes forward to come forward, and spend some time in that area. Because when it says power recall on the card, what they're talking about is you understanding your personal power, but also the divine power that works through you. So stepping into those lights, the sun for the more projective masculine energy, but the moon as well for the more feminine intuitive energy, the more receptive, allows you to bring everything back into balance. And in that balance, in that now moment, that's where your greatest power lies. So let's look at the message or the lesson or challenge from the tarot. And it's a lesson, something to work on, or a challenge, something that might be coming up for you this week. So for the first week, we have The sun. Okay, so your challenge is actually going to be more of the masculine energy this week, because the masculine energy is the projective dominant energy, but the moon does play a part. The moon reflects the solar light. So during this first week, they're saying you will be reflecting the more dominant energy in your life. And it doesn't matter if you're male or female, it's the energy around you. The more masculine person, you'll reflect their energy. You will support them, enhance them, but it's going to be more subtle. So your challenge is how do you reflect that other person's energy? How do you help them by basically filtering down their projective, more dominant aspect into a more subtle way, so that a different group of people can be receptive to it. So you're kind of the filter, is what they're saying your challenge or your lesson's going to be for this first week, because you're working with your intuitive energy. You're balancing the solar, lunar, the masculine, feminine's message from source. And so your challenge is really, how can you bring that ability to filter and balance into your personal life, and how can you allow other people around you to basically, how can you interpret for them? That's the easiest way to say that, is how can you interpret for them? So let's look at the second week's energy. We have the Emerald Dragon, bringing in healing and cosmic abundance. Good fortune is coming. Let thoughts support divine perfection. Align with your fifth dimensional blueprint. So your first week was finding that balance, working with your intuition, tapping into solar and lunar energy, primarily lunar, really working with the more divine feminine aspects. Because the second week with the Emerald Dragon, you're bringing in a form of prosperity and abundance. That doesn't always mean money. It would be nice, but doesn't always mean that. It means the abundance of life, the abundance of friendship, the abundance of knowledge, the abundance and prosperity of being at peace where you're at and being able to share that with other people. The Emerald Dragon is coming in to say where you're at right now is awesome, but you're in a shifting period. That's where that first week is coming back into balance, balancing the masculine and feminine energies, because the second week is a growth period where you're stepping out of the third everyday normal dimensional energy, and you're shifting into a higher, more spiritually focused divine energy. That fifth dimensional energy is tapping into the connection to divine. You're starting to understand the spiritual movement behind things. You're moving beyond like the mental, the everyday, the job, the bills, the worries. You're moving into spiritual stuff where you're working with angels, you're working more with dragons. You're starting to understand your spiritual aspect in a higher frequency for the second week of June. And the Emerald Dragon, being green, being earthy, is going to help you understand that type of energy a little bit better. So let's look at your message from source. That was being difficult, didn't want to give up a message. We have the Order of Melchizedek, the embraced by the light, mission uncovered, don't give up. So during your first week, you were bringing in the system upgrades, you're bringing in the light, solar and lunar, you're balancing your logical everyday life with your intuitive, more subtle energy. And the Order of Melchizedek is an order of supposed immortals. Believe in it or not, that's what they work with. But they're also alchemists. Paulo Coelho has an amazing book called The Alchemist, and they talk about the Order of Melchizedek in there. And biblically, the Order of Melchizedek the King Melchizedek is a very short snippet, but in the lore and legends, the Order of Melchizedek were a very powerful line of alchemists that had discovered ways to heal, to connect into the divine in a way that the average person couldn't. So you're really tapping into this light. In the first week, you were bringing in that light. You were balancing it within you, and the reason is now it's time to step forward. You've brought in this energy, you're bringing it into a balanced state. Now how do you put it into practice? And the message from Source is saying, allow the Order of Melchizedek, these order of divine alchemists, these people who know how to transform from one form into another, allow them to guide you to understand how you can transform. Transformation, change is messy. And that's where we have the encouragement on the card. Don't give up, because even though it might feel like you're losing your mind, you're losing something in your life, it could be that that part is holding you back, and it's time to just take a deep breath, work through the process. If that thing fades out, then it wasn't meant to be with you for longer than it had been. If it hangs around, then it was there to challenge you, to help you grow. So there's things, it's never as simple as black and white in a lot of these spiritual concepts, because growth in spirituality is not linear. It grows on its own entire pattern, and it's 100% unique to you. My spiritual path will be different from anyone else's. Anyone else's path is going to be different from mine. So just understand, as you're shifting and growing, examine things, pay attention to things. Intuition and logic are your friends. So your lesson or challenge from the tarot for the second week is the Hanged Man. Your lesson and challenge is how to look at things from a different perspective, which really does tie into your message from Source, which is bringing in those light codes, adjusting to that shifting, changing, transmuting the negative, the lower, the parts that don't work like they should into a higher frequency. And when you go through a transformative period, you have to let things go. You have to bring new things in. Sometimes things have to be broken to be rebuilt. It's kind of a tower moment. The Hanged Man is saying, as you're going through this, do you have the patience? It's all about patience to look at things from this different perspective. Do you have the ability to step outside of what's going on in your world right here, your bubble? Can you step outside of that and look, observe from the outside, become, as some people will say, the ultimate observer, where you step out of a situation, you step out of yourself, and you look at it from a non-personal perspective, where you can see, okay, this is what's happening. I'm kind of seeing the energy shifting in this part of my life. How can I make that change better, quicker, less painful? But using the energy of the Hanged Man, being able to see something from a different perspective, is going to benefit you greatly in the second week. So, well, just in life in general, but the second week with your spiritual light shifting is really going to be beneficial to have that Hanged Man energy coming forward. So, third week, we have the Source Dragon attunes you to the infinite. Be still, in silence, magic can happen, and be in the moment. Looking at this from the perspective of Source energy, God, Source, Divine energy, the Source Dragon is bringing forward the immortal and eternal energy, so that you can see that these patterns, you're always going to be going through them, but you're not going through them on a flat plane. As you cycle and circle, you're going up, not down. And you're not staying in the same place. It might be same lesson, different day, but it's the same lesson with knowledge, so you've actually elevated. And you'll repeat lessons, trust me, until you have learned them. And sometimes you learn one part, but you didn't learn the whole thing, so it comes back. And the Source Dragon is saying, in stillness you see where you're at. In those quiet moments of meditation, working with the Hindu phrase, the Om phrase, the A-U-M sound, the O-M, however you want to say it, the word that spoke creation into existence. They're saying working with that brings the body into stillness, vibrates you to a higher frequency where stillness is how you observe. With the second week, you were looking at how can you bring in these light codes, how can you adjust and transmute into this higher frequency, looking at things from a different perspective. This third week is, now that you've started to see things differently, find stillness, because in stillness you can create. In perpetual motion, where you're constantly busy, your mind's always running 1,000 miles an hour, you can't find that peace, you can't find that balance, you can't find that way of being in the moment. And so the Source Dragon is coming forward to say, let me help you. Let's look at things in the now moment. Let's look at things in this peaceful time, so that you can see how to step forward. It's next steps. You're only going to see the next step. Your goal is going to be out there. There might be 150 steps to get to it. You're only going to see the next one. You might see the second step, but it's a way to not be overwhelmed by how big of a goal you have set. And trust me, sometimes it's better just to set your goal, look at the next step, because when you look at all the details in between, the devil's in the details, it's going to weigh you down. So coming to that now quiet moment is what the Source Dragon's going to help with. So your message from Source is the ancestral realm, karmic release, heal the lineage, and boundaries. Right off the bat, they're telling me, my guides are saying that the boundaries that need to be set are of your time. It doesn't matter if you've got a husband, wife, kids, job, whatever. Setting boundaries where this is for you, but I need this 30 minutes. Just you deal with the kids, I'll get to dinner. I need 30 minutes. Do it in the morning before everyone gets up is actually usually the easiest way to do it. Or set aside some time in the evening once everything starts to settle down, kids are in bed, whatever, and just take that time to really bring in the light, bring in the balance. Take that time for you, 20-30 minutes a day. And when you're doing that work, look at your karma. And if you can, some people are really good about being able to see their Akashic records, their karma, lotus flowers. If you can't, don't worry about it. But work on bringing in light, bringing in healing, taking that time to find the silence, working with your Source Dragon energy where you're finding how to step forward in this new aspect. This month is really looking at like it's a lot of shifting, a lot of perspective changes, and a lot of growth. But the ancestral realm is saying your ancestors are coming forward to help you understand your boundaries, your physical boundaries, your energetic boundaries, and how to apply how to apply them in a way that is beneficial for you, but without hurting other people. And when I say hurting other people, I mean deep hurting. If they're offended, that's their problem. Because your time is valuable. It doesn't mean that they have access to it. Just a little heads up there. Your lesson or challenge from the tarot is the Two of Pentacles. You're going to have a feeling of a little bit of coyness, but a little bit of lackadaisical, almost wanting to be lazy. And the stillness isn't laziness. Working with your ancestors, taking those times, setting your boundaries, isn't to be lazy, it's to work on the inner aspect of who you are. And as you're doing that, you're thinking, you're contemplating. As she's looking kind of like, this is something I should probably be working on. So don't become wrapped up in doing the thing because of the thing. You're doing it because you want to understand how to move forward. So your lesson or your challenge is, how can you take the stillness, the quietness, working with your ancestors, setting your boundaries, how can you apply that in a way that it helps speed up or move forward your spiritual journey? So let's look at the fourth week of June. We have the Silver Dragon. Illuminates your potential with higher light, access untapped resources, looking into your soul, seeing higher possibilities. The Silver Dragon also works with healing, physical and spiritual, mental, and also a little bit with judiciary, so some legal stuff. Any of those things that are coming up where you might need a little help, you might need a little guidance, even before you start Googling medical or lawyers or whatever you're working with, tapping into the Silver Dragon this fourth week is going to help you understand the key to what you're looking for. As I don't know if you can see that very well. There's the dragon's actually holding the key, and the key is the access to secret knowledge, secret abilities, secret whatevers. But you're really helping to understand who you are. It's illuminating your potential. Is it wanting to step into the role of a healer, energetic, want to go back to med school, want to join, go to law school, whatever it is. But really tapping into that knowledge. They're saying as you've been going through this month so far, it's coming to this point of there are some things that are shifting. There's things that are changing. You're transmuting. You're bringing in light. You're finding a new balance. You're setting new boundaries because there's a change in you that is occurring. So something to think about as the silver dragon's coming forward to help with healing, to help with tapping into your higher frequency. Silver's also a metal of intuition and the moon, so you still have this more feminine energy coming forward this month. And that's leading us to the message from Source is Shambhala initiations, retreating to recharge, trusting the process, and Dharma. So you're really working towards this new you, because you're bringing in the light, you're finding balance, you're working with the Order of Melchizedek to transmute the old life into the new, working from third dimension into the fifth dimension. You're, as if you follow the law of one and the rocks that work, we're shifting densities from third into fourth density. You're setting boundaries, working with your ancestors, because you need to develop your own practices. You need to understand who you are. And you can't, you could, just takes a little bit longer. It's harder to develop a spiritual practice, and it's harder to really connect with spirit and build that relationship when you're constantly on the run. You're constantly busy, the TV, internet, kids, family, job, whatever. That's why you're setting those boundaries. You're setting aside a time to commune with the divine. By doing that, you're going to elevate your own life. And that doesn't mean it's going to be easy. I do not talk of flowers and butterflies. I talk of reality, which can be a little dirty sometimes. But you're working towards this initiation, you're pulling away to recharge. You're trusting the process. You're setting yourself up to be initiated into the next step. That next step might only be a half an inch, quarter of an inch, but that's still a step forward. So allowing yourself to go through that process of healing and setting aside that time for that initiation and that growth. Initiation just means a new beginning. So that's what you're working with in this fourth week. And this month is really looking like you're clearing out because some new stuff is coming in. So your lesson or challenge is the Knight of Chalices. Your emotions are going to be rough this next little bit. And they're saying this fourth week with these changes, pulling away, trying to kind of energetically and emotionally recharge, there's going to be pushback, is what this card is saying. Your emotions are going to be a little bit more raw, so be aware that during this fourth week, take the time because you're going to need it. Things are going to be moving a little bit faster. There may be a period of confusion, of frustration, of am I losing my mind? Am I losing control? Anchor yourself with the silver dragon. Bring yourself into that piece of time. If you have to expand that 30 minutes, make it longer. But really tap into the spiritual connection. It's going to help you in your heart. It's going to help you balance. It's going to help your mind so you're not feeling overwhelmed as much. Still could be there, but using these other practices can help settle it down so it's not as exhausting. So let's look at the fifth week, final week for June for fire. We have the Alpha Dragon. Harness the divine masculine power of creation. Destroying the old, visualize your dream, help to manifest a new world. So you really are coming into a new energy. You really are building something new, and it's going to be a shift in your perspective is what this month is looking like. You're growing from more neutral, you're setting new boundaries, you're bringing in new energy, new knowledge, whether it's conscious or subconscious knowledge. It's more subconscious is what they're saying. But you're learning to transmute, you're shifting, you're setting new boundaries because you are stepping into a more potent aspect of life. You've worked with a lot of feminine energy up to this last week. This last week is bringing in the alpha, more masculine energy. So you've been setting the groundwork, you've been making the plans, you're understanding the balance of masculine and feminine energy, how it plays out, the interplay within your life. Because during this fifth week, the more dominant, projective, a bit more aggressive masculine energy is saying, okay, you've started the process, now it's time to take some action. You've done the internal work through the month, and now we're going to bring that internal world into the physical. That's where it says, destroy the old, visualize dreams, and manifest a new reality. It's because you're bringing what you've been working on in here and in your heart out. This fifth week is about bringing that dream into reality, even if it's, you know, getting your business license, it's starting the class, it's clicking yes on that admission form, whatever it is that you're building, growing on, or starting. This fifth week is really about the action part of it. You've done the internal work, now it's time to bring it out. So your message from Source is Lemurian seed codes. Embrace sensitivity, uniqueness, living with grace. In this fifth week, you're working with the alpha energy. Can be a little overwhelming, can be a little intense. It's very projective. And this month has been pretty subtle. You're working more internally. This week, you're bringing everything out. When you do that, you're going to reveal your uniqueness. And Lemurian seed quartz is very unique. Unlike most quartz that has some interesting fractures, the Lemurian quartz actually has, and they tried to show it in this picture, and it's not, I don't know if it'll show up on the screen, but you can see kind of how it has little blips and lines, almost like barcodes is one of the phrases I hear frequently about it. And in a Lemurian quartz, they're unique because they're helping you manifest, they're helping you learn, they're helping you heal. And they were left by the ancient Lemurians to basically remind us of who we are spiritually. So you've got the alpha dragon saying you're bringing it from the inside out. You're in the order of Melchizedek's radar, so you're working to transmute the lower to the higher. The Lemurian is saying we're working with the healing, we're bringing this in so that you can access this higher, more purified frequency. Might be a little intense, so that's where you're finding that balance, you're finding that what they say, grace to work with that energy. So let's look at the challenge or lesson from the tarot for this fifth week for fire. And okay, well, it's two cards. We have two different cards. We have the Knight of Wands, so the Knight of Fire, and the Knave of Wands, so we have like the Prince of Wands. So this is really saying the challenge is going to be being too flashy and being too forward. With the Knight, it's all about charging forward. We're going to make these changes, and the lesson that's coming, what they're saying is, don't be in too much of a hurry. The stability of the Prince is don't be too arrogant. So you've got the Prince over here, saying, I have got this. I know what I am doing. I will make the world bend to me. And you have the Knight saying, how fast can we get this done? Let's hurry, 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 hurry. That doesn't work with the energy you've been building on. You've been building on a subtle energy where you're bringing it out from the inside. You're developing the internal world because it's going to mirror out into the physical. You're working with the Alpha Dragon, which is a very projective, can be intense energy, but it's bringing it inside out. The Lemurian crystal is saying, let's heal it as we're bringing it out. So we're bringing it out, we're clarifying, we're making sure little tweaks and adjustments as we're starting to start this process. Like I said, clicking yes, but doing the physical action of the dream that's inside. The Knave of Wands and the Knight of Wands, both fire energy, your energy, fire signs, fire element. It's really about being aware of rushing to something. You've made your plans, you're working with that energy. The last little warning here, kind of heads up, challenge, don't get too hasty and just rush into something blindly. Follow the research, the instincts, and your intuition that you've been building this month. So, hopefully those messages resonate for you guys. And if you enjoyed this video, please drop a like. Like I said, drop any comments, suggestions, even criticisms, as long as they're respectful. That's all I ask. And subscribe if you want to see when I go live or drop new videos. I try to go live about every Monday. Not every Monday, but most Mondays. And I go live randomly on Tuesdays, but I always drop videos, unless my internet goes out. So, I will talk to you guys in a future video, and have a great rest of your week and a great month of June.